My name is Salima. I am 11 years old. I was born in Saudi Arabia, in a small town where everyone knew each other and where rules were followed without questions. My life began in a house that was quiet, not because there was peace, but because there was fear. I grew up watching my mother walk carefully, speak softly, and keep her eyes down. I did not understand why she carried sadness like a shadow that never left her. My father was respected in our community. People greeted him with honor, and he prayed at the mosque every day. At home, he was different. He believed my mother had failed him because she had no child for 13 years. I did not know this until later, but in our culture, a woman without children is often blamed, shamed, and punished. When I was finally born, I was not seen as a blessing. I was seen as too late. My mother loved me deeply. She would hold my hands at night and whisper prayers over me. She taught me to be quiet, to obey, and to never ask dangerous questions. She told me that safety came from silence. Even as a child, I felt something was broken in our home. Love was there, but it was weak, always fighting fear. One night, when I was very young, something happened that changed everything. Men came to our house. They were not strangers. They were community elders. I remember my mother crying. I remember my father standing still. I remember being pushed into a corner. Later, I learned the truth. My mother was accused of bringing shame because she had been childless for many years. As punishment, she was taken outside the town and tied to a railway track as a warning to others. She survived only because the train did not come that night. After that, people looked at us differently. Children whispered about my mother. Women avoided her. I began to feel shame even though I did not understand why. I started asking myself if God hated us. I prayed the way I was taught, but inside my heart, I felt empty and confused. I did not know then that my life was already moving toward a path filled with suffering, questions, and a truth I never expected to find. After what happened to my mother, our home changed. It became quieter, heavier. My father spoke less to her and more to the people outside. When he was angry, the air felt sharp. I learned to listen for his footsteps. I learned when to speak and when to disappear into corners. My mother still smiled at me, but her eyes no longer rested. They moved as if danger could come from anywhere. At school, things were not easier. I wore the same clothes every day and kept my head covered the way I was taught. Teachers spoke strongly about obedience and punishment. They told us stories meant to make us afraid. I tried to believe with my whole heart, but something inside me felt confused. When I prayed, my words felt empty, like they stopped before reaching heaven. Other children noticed my silence. Some girls whispered that my mother was cursed. Some boys said I should not be near them. I was pushed, ignored, and sometimes blamed for things I did not do. When I went home crying, my mother held me and told me to endure. She said suffering was part of life and that questions were dangerous. One afternoon, I followed my mother secretly. She went to a small, broken building at the edge of the town. I saw her speak to a woman who was kind and gentle. They talked softly. I did not understand everything, but I heard words about love, forgiveness, and hope. These words sounded different from what I heard at school and at home. They sounded warm. That night, I felt something shift inside me. I felt that God might not be angry the way I was taught. I felt that maybe God saw my mother's pain and my tears. I began to wonder if truth could exist outside fear. This thought scared me, but it also gave me a strange comfort. I did not know it yet, but this small moment was the beginning of a journey that would cost me safety, family trust, and nearly my life. After that day, I could not forget the words I heard near the broken building. Forgiveness. They stayed in my mind like a quiet song. I tried to push them away, but they kept returning when I was alone. At night, while everyone slept, I would think about a God who did not enjoy punishment, a God who did not shame women or children. One day, the same woman I had seen with my mother came to our house when my father was away. Her name was Miriam. She brought bread and medicine. She spoke gently and looked at me as if I mattered. She did not shout. She did not threaten. She asked how I felt. No adult had ever asked me that before. Miriam told us stories in a careful way. She spoke about a man who loved children, who defended women, and who healed the broken without asking for anything in return. She explained that this man suffered too, but he chose love instead of revenge. As she spoke, I felt something warm inside my chest, something I had never felt during prayers before. Later, when my mother was not in the room, I asked Miriam why this man was different. She did not argue or force anything. She simply explained that God showed his heart through him. She let me know that God sees suffering and stays close to those who are hurt. As she spoke, I felt understood. That night, I could not sleep. I felt fear because I knew these thoughts were forbidden. But I also felt peace, a peace that did not come from rules or silence. I whispered a prayer, not the one I was taught, but one from my heart. I asked God to show me who he really was. In that quiet moment, I felt a strong sense that I was not alone. It felt like someone was listening closely, not judging, not angry. I did not see anything, but I felt guided, as if a light had been placed gently inside me. I did not know the name of Jesus fully then, but my heart had already begun to recognize him. From that day, I started to change. I became more careful, but also more alive inside. I did not know yet that this new hope would soon bring great danger. After I began thinking about what Miriam had told me, life became more difficult. I could not tell anyone what I felt. At home, my father grew stricter. He watched me closely, and I noticed him frowning when I prayed quietly in my own way. At school, I started asking questions in my heart that no one could answer. Sometimes I whispered the words I had heard from Miriam while hiding under the old fig tree behind our house. The wind seemed to carry them, but I had to be careful. One day, while I was at school, a boy found a small notebook I kept in my bag. In it, I had written the words of the stories Miriam had shared with me. The notebook was not full, but it contained names and thoughts that were forbidden. The boy showed it to the teacher. I remember the cold, sharp look in the teacher's eyes, like fire against ice. They accused me of bringing shame and strange ideas into the school. When I returned home, my father was waiting. He took me to a dark corner of our house and questioned me with words I did not fully understand. He said that I had been touched by forbidden influences. He shook me, and I felt my heart beating like a drum in my chest. My mother tried to protect me, but she could do little. Fear filled the room, thick and heavy. That night, I could not sleep. I felt trapped, like a small bird in a cage too high to reach the sky. Even with the fear, I could not stop thinking about the stories of love and forgiveness. I remembered Miriam saying that God sees suffering. I began to pray quietly, not the prayers I had learned in school, but the ones I felt in my heart. I whispered, asking for courage and protection. I felt a quiet presence that reminded me I was not alone. Soon the danger grew. Neighbors began watching our house. Rumors spread that I was learning forbidden teachings. My mother cried silently, and my father became angrier. Once, someone threw a stone through our window at night, leaving a message warning us to stop. I was scared, but I also felt a strange strength. I understood that believing this new truth would cost me safety, but it would also bring life to my soul. After the night the stone smashed our window, I realized I could not turn back. I could not forget the warmth and hope I had felt when Miriam spoke about God's love. I began to pray more often, secretly, hiding in the small space behind our kitchen, where no one could see me. I whispered to the God I was learning to know. I asked for protection for my mother, for courage for myself, and for a heart that could forgive, even in the face of fear. One day, as I prayed in the corner of our house, I felt something unusual. It was quiet at first, but then it became stronger, like a soft voice brushing against my thoughts. He let me know that I was safe and that he saw everything I was enduring. I could not see him, but I felt warmth, a sense of peace that did not come from the world around me. My fear did not disappear, but it became lighter, like a heavy cloth lifted off my shoulders for a brief moment. I began to follow him secretly. Miriam taught me small things: how to read stories about his life, how to pray from my heart, how to trust when nothing else seemed certain. Each day, I felt more courage. One afternoon, as I walked home from school, a group of older boys surrounded me. They had heard whispers about me, about my faith. I froze, my heart pounding. But then I felt a quiet strength inside, and I whispered his name. Suddenly, the boys seemed to falter, as if invisible hands held them back. They shoved me once, but they did not hurt me further. That night, I realized that God was really watching over me. I knew that my journey would be dangerous, and that my family and neighbors might not understand or accept it, but I felt that something greater was guiding me. My mother noticed a change in me, though she could not fully understand it. She smiled once and whispered, "Perhaps you will be my light." Her words made me weep quietly, because I loved her so deeply and wanted to protect her even as the world around us grew darker. Every day became a careful balance. I had to appear obedient, quiet, and normal, while secretly learning, praying, and trusting in this new God who had revealed himself to me. I began to understand that faith was not about safety or comfort. It was about courage, love, and holding on to hope even when everything around me was full of danger. The danger grew heavier as the months passed. My father's anger became sharper, and neighbors whispered even more. One evening, I overheard him speaking with a man from the mosque. They were discussing me, my prayers, my questions, and the stories I had heard from Miriam. My stomach sank. I realized that my faith could no longer remain a secret for long. A few nights later, my father confronted me. He grabbed my arm and shook me, demanding that I confess my sins. He asked why I had been speaking with strangers, why I had been learning stories that were not from our teachings. My heart pounded, and fear pressed down on me like a stone. But at that moment, I felt a voice in my heart, a quiet strength telling me to stay faithful, to trust that I was not alone. "I am learning from God," I whispered, though my voice trembled. My father's face turned red with rage. He told me I was cursed and that I would bring shame to the family. That night he locked my door. I cried quietly, wishing I could disappear. But even in that darkness, I felt him near. He let me know that courage comes in small steps, even when everything around you seems impossible. The next day, I made a choice. I would not stop believing no matter the cost. I began to pray openly in hidden corners of the house, reading the small stories Miriam had given me. I could feel the presence of God more strongly than ever. I felt him guiding my hands, my words, my heart. I knew that even if others tried to stop me, he would never leave me. One afternoon, I was outside collecting water when a man from the neighborhood saw me kneeling in prayer. He ran to tell my father. My father stormed out, furious, and dragged me into the house. I feared what would come next. He shouted, struck the wall, and threatened to send me away. But in that moment, I felt calm inside. He let me know that fear was not the end, and that trust in him could be stronger than any danger. From that day, I understood that following him would cost me safety, family acceptance, and comfort. But I also knew that his presence could not be taken away. The fear remained, but it became a companion I could face with courage. I realized that faith is not measured by ease, but by trust in the face of danger. After I had decided to follow him openly in my heart, strange and wonderful things began to happen. I remember one afternoon walking home from the market with my small basket of bread. A group of older boys who had always bullied me blocked the narrow path. My heart raced, and I prayed silently, asking God to protect me. Suddenly, I felt a calm I had never known. The boys tried to push me, but I noticed something strange. They stopped as if invisible hands held them back. They muttered to one another, then ran off without hurting me. I could not explain it, but I knew it was him protecting me. My small heart filled with awe. I whispered thanks, feeling the warmth of his presence more strongly than ever. Another time, my mother fell sick. She could not eat or drink properly, and no doctor in our town could help her. I prayed quietly at her bedside, asking him to heal her. Later, she woke up slowly, her strength returning. The sickness vanished as if it had never existed. My mother's eyes widened, and though she did not understand everything, she hugged me tightly. I felt his hand guiding me, showing me that he sees suffering and answers even the smallest prayers. Even school became a place of secret miracles. I prayed quietly for courage to answer questions and for wisdom in my studies. Suddenly, I could remember answers I had struggled with before. Teachers noticed the change and praised my focus, not knowing the source of my strength. Each time I prayed, I felt him near, letting me know that following him was not dangerous because I was alone. He was always with me. Through these small miracles, my faith grew stronger. I began to understand that even though the world around me was harsh, he could turn fear into protection, weakness into courage, and sorrow into hope. I realized that his love was different from anything I had known, a love that was patient, strong, and never-ending. As my faith grew, the storm around me grew stronger. My father's anger became unbearable. He forbade my mother from speaking to me about anything outside our teachings, and he began watching me constantly. Neighbors whispered constantly, warning him about this strange girl in his house. One evening, my father dragged me into the yard and shouted that if I continued following these teachings, I would be punished severely. I felt my heart pounding like a drum. But in that moment, I felt him close again. He let me know that courage does not mean I will never be afraid. It means trusting him even when my knees shake. I refused to deny what I had learned, and though I whispered prayers quickly so no one could hear, I felt my faith growing stronger than the fear pressing around me. At school, whispers turned into threats. Older boys mocked me, called me a liar, and told everyone I had been tainted by forbidden teachings. Teachers scolded me for asking questions about love, forgiveness, and hope. One teacher even threatened to report me to the authorities. Every day felt like walking a tightrope over a pit of fire. One night, after being scolded at home and humiliated at school, I hid behind the old fig tree, my small body trembling. I prayed harder than I ever had, asking him for protection and for courage to continue. He let me know that even if the world turned against me, he was guiding my steps. I felt warmth fill my chest and a strange peace settle over my shaking hands. It was during these days that I realized something important. Following him was not about comfort or safety, it was about truth. It was about trusting a God who sees everything, even when no one else does. I understood that my path would be full of danger, rejection, and sorrow, but it would also be full of light, love, and guidance. From then on, I faced every insult, every threat, every push from my father or neighbors with a quiet strength. I prayed in secret, read the small passages Miriam had given me, and felt him near in every difficult step. I began to understand that faith is not measured by ease but by endurance, courage, and trust in him when the world seems to be against you. One afternoon, everything became terrifyingly real. My father discovered the small stories I had been keeping from Miriam. He ripped the notebook from my hands and read it aloud, shouting that I was cursed and dishonoring our family. My mother tried to stop him, but he pushed her to the floor. I screamed, but no one came. That day, I realized I could lose everything. My home, my safety, even my life, for believing in him. That night, I was locked in a small room with no light. I could hear my father and the neighbors talking outside, planning what they would do if I continued. My body shook, and fear pressed against my chest like a stone. I whispered a prayer from the depths of my heart. I begged him to protect me, to give me strength, to show me the way forward. Then, something miraculous happened. I cannot explain it fully, but I felt a presence in the room, warm and gentle, that calmed every fear. He let me know I was not alone and that no one could truly harm me if he was with me. I felt courage rush through me like a river. And suddenly I was able to sleep in peace, even while locked away. The next morning, my father was furious, but something had changed in me. I refused to hide my faith completely. I spoke quietly, prayed silently, and helped my mother secretly care for others in need. I began to notice small protections every day. People who had meant to harm me hesitated. Doors that should have been closed opened at the right moment. I realized that God's hand was guiding me, even through the most dangerous circumstances. Through that trial, I understood the truth in a way I had never known. Faith is not about avoiding suffering. It is about trusting Him in the suffering, believing in His love when the world threatens to crush you, and holding on to hope when everything seems lost. That knowledge changed me. It gave me courage and it gave me purpose. I knew that my life had been given not just to survive, but to witness His love in a world that often felt cruel and dark. I have seen how He can turn sorrow into hope. I have felt His hand in my darkest moments, giving me courage when my body trembled and strength when my heart felt weak. I have learned that no one can take away the light He places inside us. Even when my father, neighbors, or classmates tried to make me afraid, I realized that His love is stronger than any threat, any insult, or any punishment. To anyone who hears my story, I want to say this: love Him, trust Him, and seek His guidance in every moment. Pray not just with words you have learned, but with your heart. Study His Word, because it teaches you how to walk in His light and understand His heart. Love others, even those who do not understand you, because love is the proof of His presence in your life. Forgive, even when it is hard, because forgiveness brings freedom that fear cannot touch. Remember, your journey with Him is personal and unique. You may face danger, mockery, or rejection, but every step you take in faith plants seeds of courage, hope, and light in your own life and in the lives of others. Trust Him to guide you, protect you, and strengthen you. His voice may be quiet, His guidance subtle, but it is real, and it is life-giving. I am still only 11, but I have learned more about courage, hope, and love than many do in a lifetime. I know that my story is only the beginning. Each day I choose to follow Him, to pray, to love, and to learn. And I want everyone who reads this to know, no matter how dark the world may seem, He is with you, and His love is greater than all fear. Pray daily. Love without hesitation. And hold tightly to His word. It will never fail you.